Hi, moral recap here. Today I'm going to explain a British drama film called The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The film starts by showing a number of people harvesting their crops, collecting corn and putting it in their baskets. Kids will always be kids, and they play around with each other. In an instant, a man puts his hands around his heart and collapses. We are then taken to a funeral, and the priest says that God decided to take John away, but he will be remembered, just like a tree is remembered by the fruit it produces. In John's case, that would be his brother, Tyrell, and his son, Jeremiah, who will be the one to continue his father's work. William, who is Tyrell's son, is trying to fix a radio. Tyrell asks him if he fixed their neighbor's radio, but William didn't fix it yet. Tyrell tells William to go up on the roof and try and fix it. He then walks out and meets his daughter, Annie. He asks Annie if she was able to get any sleep, and she shakes her head, no. She's been having bad dreams. Tyrell's wife gives him a uniform and tells him to put it on William's bed as a surprise. William later finds the uniform and wears it. He is ready to go to school. William crosses roads with his mate, Gilbert, and they walk to school together. Meanwhile, Annie listens to her mother, Agnes, speaking with some other women and saying about a girl whose family helped her get a job in the Ministry of Agriculture. Agnes later tells Annie that she will be able to get a good job as well when she finishes university. When they walk on the road to meet Tyrell, a well-dressed man rides his bike past them. He and Annie smile at each other, but are careful not to get noticed by Annie's parents. That man goes at the school and takes a bunch of children to class. He introduces himself as their science teacher, Mr. Kachigunda. When the class is finished, William gives his teacher a letter from his sister. In return, Kachigunda tells him that he has to pay the fees to the school or else he can't keep coming here. William tries to study at night, but that's hard to achieve since it's raining heavily outside and the family has no electric power or light inside the house. William and Gilbert receive their graded tests the next day at school, and William thinks they can do better. They have to find a way to study at night. They visit a junkyard and try to find anything that would be of use to them. Right next, they walk to Gilbert's house where a council is taking place. A guy from a company is offering the people an amount of money to return from cutting down some trees out of their fields. Tyrell and some others don't think this is a good idea, but Jeremiah signs a deal for himself since he needs the money. Later at their house, Tyrell and Jeremiah argue about it. The latter insists that he needs the money, and Tyrell tells him to quit gambling and save some money. Jeremiah tells him that this heavy rain has ruined their crops, and everybody is gambling this year, in one way or another. William and Gilbert attend what seems to be the local cafeteria at night, and they are listening to a sports game on the radio. But the radio stops and everybody is looking at William, wondering if he can do anything about it. William runs back at his house and asks Tyrell if he is going to pay the fees to his school. Tyrell says that he will pay when the rain stops and the fields start the production. William takes the batteries out of their radio and runs back to the other youngsters. He fixes the radio and finds the game's frequency. Everybody cheers. He and Gilbert walk out to return to their homes, and they see Annie kissing with their teacher. The next day, Gilbert tells William to break Kachigunda's bike, so he has to walk to town. They approach his bike, but William realizes that kinetic energy produced from the pedal of the bike is channeled to the light that sits in front of it. William is impressed by it, but the headmaster expels him from their school because he didn't pay the school fees. The next morning, William returns to school and skips the morning assembly. He gets straight to class. When the class is finished, he asks Kachigunda about the light on his bike. The teacher explains that it is a dynamo, and William asks how he can build one. The teacher does not know everything and tells him to take a look at the library. William says he does not have a library card, and Kachagunda understands that William has not paid the schooling fees. William tells his teacher that he could keep that a secret because he is keeping a secret himself. There is a man coming to his village and visiting his sister Annie. Kachagunda gets the message and takes William to the library. He tells the librarian that he is working with William on a science project and says he should be free to make his research in the library. The president of the country visits their village and a crowd has gathered. The chief of the community gets on the microphone and says that he would easily vote for democracy, but he can't vote for a man who's turning a blind eye on the people's problems. He further says that the government should prepare and take some countermeasures about the harvests that are going to fail. The president's security takes the chief away, and they punish him by beating him up. Trywell's harvest does not go well, and the corn they have collected is not going to make enough income for the family. The prices are now very high, and the people are starting to feel uncomfortable. Trywell is angry, and he joins some protesters to go to the president and try to apply some pressure onto him. Agnes tells him to stay with his family, but he is angry and goes with the rest of the protesters. Annie has a meeting with Kachagunda, and he tells her that she should leave her village and go somewhere else. At school, the headmaster takes Kachagunda's place in science class and spots William. He now kicks him out for good. The people are running out of supplies. 2 government trucks come in, and people rush to buy grains. Agnes gives William all of their money and tells him to go and buy as much grain as he can. A man bursts into Agnes's house and steals a basket with food out of Annie's hands. Right next, a bunch of other men steal all of their remaining supplies from their storage. And worse, when the trucks come near the people that are waiting, the supplies are already finished. The people follow the truck to a warehouse where more people are buying grain, but the officials say that they can't sell any more grain today. The people rush towards the warehouse like a huge wave, and William is able to sneak into the warehouse. He buys 15 kilos of grain, and then waits inside the warehouse along with some others. The doors are locked and the crowd is still outside, waiting to loot whatever they can. The officials say they can't wait in there forever, and they will have to open the doors. William finds a slit-open sheet metal and asks some men to help him. They kick the sheet metal open, and William is able to sneak out of there without risking being robbed. Trywell returns to the village and the family meets in their house. He tells his family they can have only 1 meal per day, for now, and asks them to decide which meal would that be. The family tries to get by on whatever they have for the next couple of days. Trywell says they should give it another try and plant some seeds. Everybody says that the fields are dry and no plant can blossom. Trywell prays for rain, but Agnes stops him. As she says later on, when they agreed to make a family, they also agreed to not pray for rain like their ancestors did. One night, William knocks on his sister's door and tells her that he knows she has been meeting with teacher Kachagunda. He asks her to speak to him and tell him he needs the dynamo. With that, he can bring water to the crops and make rain instead of praying for it. The next day, William ponders upon his thoughts on the fields. When he returns home, he finds his parents in a tense situation. Agnes is holding a letter in her hands, which was written by Annie. The letter says, "1 less month to feed." Annie has run away with her lover. Trywell asks William if he knows anything about it, but William has no idea. They visit the headmaster at the school to ask him about the teacher, but he can't help them. William asks him if he can at least use the library, and the headmaster allows him to do so. William reads some books on energy production and comes up with an idea. He tells his friends that they need to try to build a small windmill as a test and see if they can produce energy from wind. They build the windmill and connect it to the radio. It starts moving when air comes through the room. The windmill works and it generates energy to turn the radio on. William goes to his father and tells him about his invention. He says that he can connect a pump to the well, which will draw water from energy produced by wind. But for that to work, they will have to build a large windmill, and he will need his father's bicycle to dissect and use its parts. Tyrell gets mad at his son for making stupid dreams. He shouts at him and tells him that from now on, he will wake up early in the morning and come with him to plow the ground. William goes back to his friends to ask them for help, but they are packing their things to travel north and maybe look for a better fate. William convinces them that his plan can work. They just need his father's bike. They pay a visit to Tyrell, but they don't eventually steal his bike and leave empty-handed. Tyrell has a talk with Agnes, who asks him how many things she has to lose. She lost many things since she met him. She lost her parents when she moved here. She lost the land, and now she lost her daughter. Tyrell listens to her words and decides to give his son a chance and trust him. He gives him the bike and William gets to work. The people who are still left in the village gather and help him out. They build a wooden windmill with metal parts on it. The wind gets stronger and the blades start moving. William says that the pump's battery needs some time to charge. The battery charges and it starts drawing its first water. The water starts flowing and everybody is happy. They get to work and shovel some canals for the water to circulate around the dry fields. Tyrell tells everybody to get the seeds and plant them. The film ends with William looking at the windmill and telling his parents that the librarian wants to visit him along with a government representative, and he may be able to get a scholarship. Before the titles roll in, we see a short collection of pictures and moments explaining what happens to the family after the film ends. Tyrell and Agnes still live in their village. Annie didn't attend university, but now has 4 kids with Kachagunda. And finally, William got a scholarship and studied in the USA. Subscribe and hit that like button to help our channel grow. Turn the notifications on so you won't miss any of our new videos. Thanks for watching. Hi, Moral Recapped here. Today I'm going to explain a biographical drama film called The First Grader. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. An old man is working his land, plowing the ground and planting some seeds. When he returns home, he listens to a man on the radio who says that the government has announced free education for everyone. The only thing one needs to sign up is their birth certificate. The next day at the local school, many parents have gathered to try and sign their children up for school. Teacher Jane is doing her job when she is called by another teacher, Alfred, who tells her that an old man is looking for her. Jane meets with Maruge, and he gives her a torn piece out of a newspaper, which says that education will be free for everyone. Jane says that free education is meant for children. Maruge says that he heard it on the radio as well, and they said it would be for everyone. Alfred says that there are already many students that want to join the school, and they can't accept an old man who can't even walk. The next day at school, Jane's class is overwhelmed with students. Alfred calls her outside again and sees Maruge waiting outside the school doors. Alfred tells him that they can't accept him. He should go home and rest in peace. That phrase does not ring well with Maruge's ears. He says he is not dead yet. Alfred tells him that he should have a school uniform, which includes special clothes and shoes in order to be accepted, but he has no money to afford it. Alfred lets Jane deal with the old man. Jane asks him why he wants to join the school, and Maruge answers that he wants to learn how to read. Jane apologizes to him, but there is nothing she can do. Maruge returns home and spends some time with his dear chicken. Then he sells them and makes some money. He uses that money to buy his school uniform, as Alfred demanded. Maruge wears his shirt, his shorts, and his shoes and visits the school again the next day. Alfred calls Jane out once more and she meets Maruge. Jane tells Alfred that he is a man who does not give up easily. Alfred tells Jane that she can't fall for it. If she even thinks of accepting Maruge, she will have trouble with the education board. Jane says that Alfred is right. How will she explain this to the Board of Education or the parents? Maruge says that he is going to be a good pupil and will work very hard. Jane decides to let him in and opens the doors for him. Jane takes Maruge in class and tells the children that they have a new student joining them. The kids laugh. Jane tells Maruge to sit on the back, but he says he won't be able to see from back there. Jane lets him have a seat in the front and starts teaching the class how to write the letter A. When Maruge returns home that afternoon, he hears some voices outside his house telling him that school is not for old men and he has no business there. Those voices bring back some sad memories in his mind from the time when he was young and his country was controlled by British rulers. Maruge returns back to school the next day and he sits on his desk with the little girl and boy, Kamau. Jane calls Kamau to write the number 5 on the blackboard, but Kamau needs 2 attempts to get it right. Jane then calls Maruge to write number 6, but he can't hear her very well. On the break time, Maruge is sitting on the side while the kids play. The girl from his desk, who has a deficient leg, approaches him and asks him if he is sick. Maruge says no, it's just his ears that do not hear very well. The girl tells him that she will be a doctor when she grows up and will cure his ears. The kids get back to class and Alfred comes in to examine the students. When he walks to Maruge, he tells him that he needs to sharpen his pencil. Maruge gets up to do so, and yet another memory comes into his mind. When he was young, the British had tortured him by sticking a sharp pencil in his ear. When he returns to present, he doesn't feel well and walks out of the class. Maruge sits alone, playing with his bracelet. The girl comes near and asks him what it is. Maruge says he was in prison, but not because he did something wrong. He was in prison because white men stole their land, and he fought for his freedom. He and the kids chant the word freedom, and that draws the teacher's attention. Alfred says he is going to cause trouble to the school. A photographer approaches Maruge's school and takes a picture of him. The man on the radio says that rumor has spread about an old man attending primary school. The next day at school, 2 kids start fighting, and Maruge walks between them to split them up. In the fuss of the moment, a representative of the government visits the school to see for himself if the rumors are true. He got a call from the press that informed him about an old man studying at the school. He is not happy about it and asks who allowed Maruge to study there. Jane says that she is the one who allowed him to come in. The representative tells them that they need to expel him. He will not spend another day in the school. Jane calls her husband and asks for his help, but there's not much he can do. Jane visits the Secretary of Education and tells her about Maruge. The secretary says they can't accept him at school because that might trigger other old people to join in as well, and that would drain the government of valuable resources, which they need to dedicate to the children. The only thing they can do for Maruge is to sign him up in a school for adults. Eventually, Jane visits Maruge and tells him the news. Maruge goes to his new school to test the waters, but that school is nothing like primary school. Nobody's there to actually learn, and nobody pays any attention to class. The noise is so loud that he can't even listen to the teacher talk, and there is no respect for education whatsoever. Maruge walks to Jane's house and waits for her to return. She invites him in, and they have a chat. Maruge says that his tribe used to survive from their land, while other tribes used to survive from their animals. But a man is nothing if he does not know how to read. He says he has a letter he would love to read, but he can't do so because he is not educated. Jane calls the representative and asks him if he has reconsidered about Maruge. No luck. Jane returns to school the next morning and listens to cheers and singing coming from her class. She joins the class and sees Maruge standing with the children and cheering them up. He tells the kids to sit down and says he came to say goodbye. He addresses Jane and tells her what he told the kids, that a goat can't read and can't write its own name. Therefore, a man who can't read is not better than a goat, so they have to study hard. Jane tells them that goats are smart animals and very stubborn. They can learn a lesson from them, since they don't easily give up. She announces to the class that from now on, Maruge will be her teaching assistant. Maruge's story makes it to the news, and the whole nation learns about him. That causes the people's rage, because they think it's not right for their children to study alongside an old man. The representative comes back to the school and tells Jane that Maruge has to go to the adult school. Jane tells him Maruge has no money, and he replies that he will have money soon, since his tribe is going to get some form of compensation. And in any case, Jane is just an employee at the school, so she has to do what she is told. Maruge's memory takes him back to his youth, and his wife telling him that she is pregnant. Although his wife gave birth to their child, she was executed by the British. Back at school, Jane is helping Maruge learn how to read a few short words. When they are done, she receives a phone call, and the man on the other end of the line tells her that they are watching her, and they know she is alone at her place. Jane calls her husband Charles and tells him about it. Charles comes back at their house, and at that same night, he gets an anonymous phone call and a voice throwing some dirt on his wife, telling him that she has been cheating on him. The next day, Kamaru's father visits Maruge and asks for money. He says he knows the press has been paying him money and he wants a share. Maruge says he has no money and goes inside his house. Kamaru's father pays some dudes to go at the school and make a mess. Kamaru witnesses the whole interaction. Those men visit the school and make some noise, but Maruge beats them with his stick and hunts them away. Maruge then sits with Kamaru, who asks him if he is okay. Maruge says he is fine and teaches Kamaru a cool poem he can use to remember how to write the number 5. Long neck, belly fat, number 5. Where is your hat? Following, Jane receives a letter at school which says that she is being transferred to another school in another city. She tells her husband about it, and they have a verbal fight because he thinks Jane is sacrificing too much to just help an old man. Jane visits Maruge and tells him about it. A new teacher is about to come at the school to replace Jane, and the parents cheer for her. However, the kids do not share the same feelings. When the new teacher comes, the kids lock the school doors and start throwing whatever they can get their hands on towards the parents and the new teacher. Consequently, the new teacher gets intimidated and runs away. Maruge travels to Nairobi to meet with the Board of Education. He tells them that he fought for the freedom of this country and shows them his wounds. He says that they can only reap what they sow from their children. The children need good teachers. He tells them to bring Jane back, and then he leaves. Jane is transferred back at her old school, and all the students rush to go and greet her. Later, Maruge brings his letter to Jane and tells her that it is too complex, and he can't read it. Jane takes a look, but then gives the letter to Alfred to read. He starts reading. The letter is from the president of Kenya, and says that Maruge is going to receive a compensation in return for the harsh treatment he has faced with all the years he spent in various prisons. Jane feels proud about him and says that they are here because of him. Maruge says that this is not the end and he will continue his education. He will study until he dies. The film closes by letting us know that Maruge has been invited as a speaker to various events abroad to talk about the importance of education. Subscribe and hit that like button to help our channel grow. Turn the notifications on so you won't miss any of our new videos. Thanks for watching. Hi, moral recap here. Today, I'm going to explain about a Thai inspirational film called Broken Sword Here. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The film opens with a grown man running. Gradually, a group of men appears behind him, riding their horses and hunting after him. The man, Joy, is outnumbered, but while running, a smile forms on his face. The movie cuts, and we now see a young boy, who is young Joy, running to get away from a bunch of other boys that are hunting him down. Joy runs through the market and uses a fat lady to evade the other kids. The kids crash on the fat lady and are stopped. They grab some fruit and throw them at Joy, who eventually runs away. Joy joins the boxing camp and takes a look at the fighters, admiring them. His uncle, Chart, is the trainer. Joy asks him to teach him how to fight, but Chart tells him he should ask his father, who used to be a professional boxer. But Joy knows that his father will not teach him. Chart asks Joy to showcase some of his moves, and Joy performs some shadow boxing. Joy's dad joins in and takes Joy to the temple. He tells the priest that his son always gets into fights with the governor's son, and he has to be more careful. The priest says that Joy is a smart kid. Sometimes boys will get into fights. Those boys are waiting for Joy once more, and they beat him down by throwing fruit at him. Joy makes a decision, and he hangs some fruit from a tree branch. He uses them to train. Then he attacks Churd and his group of friends and lures them in the place where he trains. He dares them to attack him, and they do. Joy is able to take them down and eventually deliver a kick to Churd. The other boys tell him that he made the governor's son bleed, and now he will get in trouble. The film cuts back to older Joy, and he is still being hunted by those horsemen. Those men are Churd and his group. They can't get to Joy, and they split up to look for him. Joy attacks them one by one until he gets to Churd. He throws Churd off his horse and steals it, riding away with it. Joy goes to a boxing camp, and the trainer puts him to fight another fighter. Joy wins the fight with a single blow, and the trainer collects the money from the bets. Joy has a couple of more fights, and he wins all of them. The trainer asks if there is anyone else who wants to fight Joy. The crowd is hesitant until a man approaches. He says he wants to fight Joy, and he bets an amount of money and his sword on it. Joy fights this man, but he gets knocked out and drops in the lake. A drunk man pulls Joy out and tells him he lost because he is too cocky. He believes Joy has some skill and talent, but he needs to be trained by a professional if he wants to reach his true potential. Joy goes to a new boxing club and a new trainer whose name is Tang. The trainer's daughter, Sui, stares at the fighters, and her mother asks her if she still wants to learn how to fight. Sui says yes, and her mother replies that if her father hears about it, he will whip her. Joy has a talk with Master Tang, and is also impressed by Sui. The master asks Joy's name, and Joy presents himself as Tongdi. The master puts him to the test by making him fight one of his other fighters. Tang is impressed by Joy, who he thinks is good, but lacks strength. The fun is ruined by Churd, who comes to the boxing club with his father's troopers. They are looking for Joy. Since Joy was introduced as Tongdi, Tang has no idea who they are talking about. Things get tense, and Joy has to show himself and reveal his true identity. Churd ties up his hands and rides his horse, dragging Joy behind the horse. Like that is not enough, the commander of the troops, who is also Churd's uncle, orders them to burn the whole camp. The fighters fight back, struggling to prevent them from burning the place to ashes. Joy escapes from Churd and helps the others out. The fighters beat the troops, and they, along with Churd, have no choice but to run away defeated. Joy apologizes to Tang and everyone else, and he is ready to depart. he can't stay there anymore. Tang tells him about another gymnasium where they can help him develop his skills. Joy leaves, and on the way, he realizes that he is being followed by a young man, Boonkerd. Joy asks him why he is following him, and Boonkerd says they are just walking towards the same direction. But in reality, Boonkerd had been impressed by Joy's fighting skills. The two of them reach a market and stumble upon a Chinese theater that is being set up. They approach a woman who is standing there, Yue, and asks her about the show. They spend the night in that place and watch the show. Joy is impressed by how the performers are able to jump high and perform somersaults. The performers take a break and Joy pays them a visit backstage. One of the performers is Mr. Li, Mue's father. Joy asks him to teach him how to jump high, but Li says no. When the show starts again, Joy has been dressed as an actor and has a choreographic fight with Li. When the show is over, Joy bribes Li with a jar of booze. Mr. Li gets drunk enough and he now accepts to teach his jumping techniques to Joy. The next day, a cargo is attacked by Cherd and his uncle. They kill most of the guards, but a brave lady steps off the cart and resists bravely. Joy comes to her aid and defeats the bandits while performing some impressive jumps. When the bad guys are defeated, the lady gives Joy a ring. She tells him to keep it until they meet again, and then he can give it back to her. Joy makes it to Master Mech's training camp, the man who Master Tang referred him to. Mech puts Joy against one of his fighters, and Joy wins. Master Mech accepts him in his camp and starts teaching him his ways. Mech's gym will attend a festival and fight against another gym. The team attends the festival, and Joy sees the woman whose life he saved. He talks to her, and they have a walk. He finally learns her name, Ramyong. Joy wants to give her ring back, but she does not want to take it. She says that the ring will find its way to its owner when it's the right time. The fight has started, and 3 of Mech's students have lost to the fighter from the rival gym. But when Joy gets to fight him, he finishes him with an elbow on the top of his head. Master Mech thanks Joy for redeeming his school's name. He tells Joy that he has nothing to offer him, but gives him a letter and sends him to meet another master in order to learn some sword skills from him. Joy starts on his journey along with Boonkerd, and they are soon joined by Mue and Tuk, the fighter whom Joy defeated just a few moments ago. They are able to find the Master of Swords, Master Pang, only to realize that he loves 2 things, drinking and sleeping. However, when he tells them to get ready for training, he proves to be very skillful and defeats all of them. Mr. Pang trains them for a short period of time, and eventually he admits that he has nothing more to teach Joy. Joy and his company get swords and knives as a parting gift, and they get on their way. The team decides to take a break from walking at some part of the forest. Cherd and his uncle find them, and they are up to no good. The commander gets his rifle and aims at Joy, but when he pulls the trigger, Boonkerd walks in front of Joy and is the one who gets shot on his chest. The commander orders his men to kill them all. Joy and the rest are able to defeat them, and Joy kills the commander. Cherd watches what happens and runs like a coward. Joy carries Boonkerd on a horse as they try to get some help. The horse collapses and bails on them. Joy carries his friend on his arms, and they reach a town. Joy asks for help, but the people there are not quite friendly. Joy tries to buy a horse by offering Ramyong's ring. The horse's owner pushes the ring out of his hand, and the ring flies away. To make things worse, they attack Joy. Joy defeats them, but a man stops him and helps him carry Boonkerd to a temple. The man is ready to leave, and Joy goes after him. He asks him what his name is and where he lives, because he wants to return his favor someday. The man's name is Rung. Before he rides away, he takes Ramyong's ring out of his pocket and gives it back to Joy. Ramyong meets with Joy and tells him that the governor of this town is a fan of boxing and holds some fighting events. She advises him to join the fights. Meanwhile, Bunker wakes up and starts feeling better. Joy and Tuck go to sign up for the fights, and Joy sees Hao, the man who had knocked him out on the lake a while ago. It is revealed that Hao is Ramyung's uncle and the governor's head of security. The fights take place into an arena under the governor's supervision. Tuck wins his fight, and now it's Joy's turn. He fights with Hao and wins. The governor asks him if he has any energy left to fight against one of his other guards. Joy fights him and wins again. The governor tells everyone to exit the arena, except from the winners and his guards. The governor approaches the winners and is about to reward them, but he gets shot. Rung bursts into the arena with some of his men, holding a handgun. Joy, the other fighters, and the guards protect the governor, and they are able to turn the tables on the intruders. Joy takes the gun out of Rung's hand and finds it hard to believe that Rung just tried to kill the governor. Joy sticks the gun on Rung's temple, but still remembers that he owes him a favor. He gives Rung the gun back and tells him that he can offer his own life, but he should let everyone else alone. Rung turns the gun on Joy and pulls the trigger, but the gun is empty. Rung starts laughing. He and Ramyung explain that everyone has been in this trick. This was just a test for the fighters, a test of their loyalty. The governor has been an impersonator, and Rung is the real governor. He has been watching Joy since the time he saved Ramyung from those bandits. Rung tells Joy to join his guard and serve him, but Joy rejects the offer. Rung makes him another offer. He suggests they have a fight, and if he wins, Joy will serve him. If Joy wins, he is free to do as he wishes. They jump on each other, and the film cuts. The film ends with Joy being dressed as one of the governor's troops, being on his horse along with the other troops, and accompanying the governor to battle. His sword breaks while fighting, but he returns home alive. Subscribe and hit that like button to help our channel grow. Turn the notifications on so you won't miss any of our new videos. Thanks for watching.